The Life of Lamine Yamal. Introduction, Early Life, Family and Background. Youth Career, First Steps in Football, La Masia. Rise to Fame, joining Barcelona First Team. International Career, playing for Spain. Challenges and Triumphs, Injuries, Setbacks, and Growth. Style of Play and Influence, Skills, Comparisons, and Legacy. Personal Life and Character, Off-Pitch Life, Personality. Looking to the Future, Potential and Legacy. Born for the beautiful game, the birth of a star. In the bustling neighborhood of Esplugues de Llobregat, a town near the vibrant city of Barcelona, Spain, the sun shone down on a warm summer day. July 13, 2007. It was on this day that a boy was born who would go on to carry not just the hopes of a city or a country, but the imagination of football fans around the globe. His name was Lamine Jamal Nasraoui Ibana. Born to a Moroccan father and Equatorial Guinean mother, Lamine grew up in a multicultural household where the languages of love, discipline, and ambition were spoken daily. His early life was shaped by modest beginnings. His family wasn't rich, but it was full of support and values. His parents worked hard to make sure Lamine and his siblings had opportunities they never had. Football wasn't just a game in the Yamal household. It was a tradition. From the moment he could walk, Lamine had a ball at his feet. Whether in the hallways of their apartment or in the local playgrounds of Mataró, he chased after the ball with an energy that was electric. Even as a toddler, he was different. At 3 years old, he could dribble past older children. At 4, he watched FC Barcelona matches with laser focus, mimicking the movements of Messi and Iniesta, often trying to reenact their goals in the narrow corridors of his home. He used to sleep with a football, his mother once said. Not a teddy bear, a football. Childhood with the ball. His love for the game grew wild and untamed like a sunflower stretching toward the Catalan sun. Every free moment was spent with a ball. On playgrounds, in parking lots, on narrow side streets, wherever there was space to kick, Lamine was there. Local neighbors began to talk about him. That boy, they'd whisper, he's going to be something. At 6, his father signed him up for a local youth football academy. Coaches immediately noticed his vision, balance, and most of all, his confidence. He wasn't just good, he was special. His ability to dribble in tight spaces, combined with an almost telepathic sense of positioning, made him a standout even among older kids.
The eyes of Barcelona. It didn't take long for FC Barcelona's scouts to hear the whispers about the boy from Mataró. At the age of 7, he was invited for a trial at La Masia, Barcelona's legendary youth academy. These walls had nurtured legends, Xavi, Puyol, Iniesta, and Messi. And now, they were about to welcome a new prodigy. The moment Lamine stepped onto the pristine training pitches at La Masia, he was fearless. In his first game, he nutmegged a defender twice, scored a goal, and assisted another. Coaches exchanged looks of awe. He wasn't just playing, he was telling a story with the ball, said one scout. He was immediately accepted into the academy. His journey had officially begun. Life inside La Masia. Living at La Masia is a dream for most, but it's not without its sacrifices. Lamine had to leave home young. He missed family dinners, weekend outings, and the simple warmth of sleeping in his own bed. But he also gained something rare: discipline, structure, and elite football education. Every day, Lamine trained with the best of his generation. Mornings were for schoolwork, afternoons for training, and evenings for tactical learning and self-reflection. His teachers admired his humility, while his coaches praised his creativity. At 10 years old, he was already playing with the U12s. By 12, he was being compared to Ansu Fati and Lionel Messi. But what made Lamine special wasn't just talent, it was mentality. He never bragged. He listened more than he talked. He never stopped working. He wasn't just dreaming of being a professional footballer. He was living like one already. The spark before the fire. By the time Lamine was 13, he was considered one of the brightest prospects in world football. Videos of his highlights were being circulated online. Fans began to whisper, this kid might be the next big thing. Clubs across Europe, Manchester City, PSG, and Bayern Munich watched him with hungry eyes. But Lamine had no doubts. He said in an early interview, I'm from Barcelona, and I want to make history here. Even as a boy, his vision was bigger than fame. He didn't just want to play, he wanted to be remembered. And with that, the first chapter of his story came to a close, not as an end, but as the beginning of something far greater. The making of a prodigy at La Masia, where legends are forged. La Masia isn't just a training center, it's a sacred ground in football. Built to nurture not just great athletes, but complete human beings, it emphasizes discipline, intelligence, humility, and vision. For young Lamine Yamal, this was the perfect crucible. By the time he turned 8 years old, Lamine was already a standout in his age group. Coaches began tailoring sessions around his unique strengths, his agility, dribbling, and ability to read space. He wasn't just scoring goals, he was creating magic. Sometimes he played as a false nine, other times as a right winger, but wherever he played, defenders were always left behind. One particular coach recalled, Lamine could take on 4 players and still have the awareness to pick the right pass. He didn't play like a child, he played like a professional. The boy among men. By the time he reached U13 level, Lamine was consistently playing against boys 2 or 3 years older. Most players would be intimidated, but not him. His growth had accelerated. He had bulked up slightly, his footwork sharper, his left foot terrifyingly precise. His standout qualities, dribbling at speed. Like Messi, Lamine could glide past defenders with close control. Vision. He saw passes others didn't. Left-footed genius. His curling shots and crosses always had defenders on edge. At age 14, during a youth tournament in France, he dominated the opposition. He scored 6 goals in 5 games and made the tournament's best 11. But what caught scouts' attention wasn't just the stats. It was his calm, almost cold ability to take control of games at such a young age. He doesn't panic. He doesn't force. He orchestrates, a French scout remarked. Rise through the ranks. By 15, whispers had turned into noise. Spanish press started publishing short stories and feature pieces, calling him the new pearl of La Masia. People were watching him, analyzing every touch. That kind of attention breaks many kids, but not him. He stayed grounded. He remained silent in interviews, always giving credit to his teammates, coaches, and family. At this time, Ansu Fati had already made his name in the senior team, and fans were eager to see who would follow. The club had one answer: Lamine Yamal. He began training with the Juvenil A, or U19 side, the final step before professional football. He wasn't just holding his own, he was dominating. The coaching staff began fast-tracking him through the ranks. During one legendary match against Real Madrid's academy, Lamine scored a solo goal where he beat 4 players and chipped the keeper. That goal went viral online. Former players started noticing. Even Xavi Hernandez, Barcelona's coach at the time, was quietly watching. Balancing stardom and school. Despite his rising fame, Lamine still had to study. Like every La Masia player, he attended school in the mornings and trained in the afternoons. It was a tough balance. Some days were exhausting, especially after travel games or media appearances. He loved history and physical education, but found math difficult. Tutors helped him stay afloat academically, but it was clear his real gift was on the pitch. Still, his family insisted. Football is not forever. Education is. Lamine never forgot that. Hard lessons. No journey is without setbacks. In his 15th year, Lamine picked up a hamstring injury. It wasn't serious, but it kept him out for 6 weeks. During that time, he struggled emotionally. It was the first time he felt helpless, said a former teammate. He watched from the sidelines as others played. Doubts crept in. Will I come back the same? But he used the time to grow mentally. He studied match footage, learned more about tactics, and returned stronger, sharper, and smarter. Called to train with Barcelona B. At 15 years and 6 months, he was called up to Barcelona B for a training session. That's a big deal. Even great talents don't usually get that chance so young. In his first session, he faced hardened professionals, older, stronger, faster. But he impressed everyone with his fearlessness and intelligence. He wasn't trying to be flashy. He was efficient, deadly, and controlled. One Barcelona B coach said, "He looked like he belonged." This was a clear message to the club. He was ready for more. Attention from the world. As his fame grew, international clubs began sniffing around. Chelsea, Bayern, PSG, and Man City reportedly inquired about him. But Barcelona moved quickly. At 16, he signed a professional contract with a high release clause. The club believed in him. They protected him. But Lamine wanted to give back. His performances became even more electric. He was scoring bangers, assisting with no-look passes, and earning standing ovations from youth fans. A style all his own. By the end of his youth years, Lamine had created a unique identity. A left-footed magician, smart, not selfish, calm under pressure, plays with joy, like he's dancing. He was called the left-footed symphony. But most importantly, he respected the badge. Even when he scored, he pointed to the sky or hugged teammates, never arrogant, always grateful.
Rise to fame. Barcelona's youngest star. The senior team beckoned. It was the spring of 2023, and Lamine Yamal had just turned 15 years old. He had already torn apart youth leagues, dominated elite tournaments, and trained with Barcelona B. But now came a moment that would change his life forever. Xavi Hernandez, Barcelona's head coach and club legend, shocked the world when he announced the inclusion of Lamine Yamal in the senior squad for an upcoming La Liga match. "He's ready, he's different," Xavi said, brushing off concerns about Yamal's young age. "He plays with maturity beyond his years." The world took notice. Spanish media exploded. "The youngest to ever do it?" they asked. Social media flooded with highlight reels, and fans waited with bated breath. Then came the fateful day, April 29, 2023, Barcelona versus Real Betis at the iconic Camp Nou. The debut, history made. In the 83rd minute, with Barcelona leading 3-0, the fourth official lifted the board. The number 41 was going off. In came number 27, Lamine Yamal, just 15 years and 290 days old. The crowd stood. They clapped. They roared. He was the youngest player to ever debut for Barcelona's first team in La Liga, and he didn't disappoint. In just 7 minutes, he showed flair, confidence, and skill. He even created a chance, cutting inside and curling a left-footed shot that the goalkeeper barely saved. It wasn't a goal, but it was a statement. "I wasn't nervous," he said after the game. "I was just happy." The media went wild. Newspapers called him El Niño de Oro, the Golden Boy. TV shows analyzed every step he took. Barcelona fans, they had fallen in love. Rising faster than ever. The debut was no fluke. Lamine continued training with the senior squad and appeared again that season. He remained calm under pressure and always played with purpose. Over the summer, Barcelona renewed his contract. They weren't taking chances. Release clause, over €1 billion. The message was clear. He belongs to Barcelona. Xavi continued to trust him, integrating him slowly but surely. In August 2023, Yamal became the youngest starter for Barcelona in La Liga. And not long after, against Villarreal, he registered his first assist, slicing open the defense with a perfect ball. Then, the magic moment. September 2023, versus Granada. Lamine Yamal scores his first La Liga goal. A smart run to the far post, a tap-in after beating his marker. It wasn't flashy, but it was important. He became the youngest goal scorer in La Liga history at 16 years and 87 days.
Adored by the fans. At Camp Nou, later Montjuic, fans now wore shirts with Yamal, 27. Kids mimicked his style, grown men praised his maturity. His dribbling, silky. His assists, laser sharp. His attitude, unshakably humble. Barcelona saw him as the next face of their youth movement. After Messi, after Fati, they believed Yamal could be the one. But it wasn't just about stats. It was about how he made fans feel, the way he smiled after a clever pass, the joy in his eyes when teammates scored. Football had become fun again. Media pressure and global attention. With fame came scrutiny. Interviews, sponsorship offers, and tabloid coverage followed. Nike signed him to a long-term deal. Reporters asked about his private life. Analysts debated his potential endlessly. But Yamal stayed grounded. His father shielded him from toxic press. His mother kept him close to their roots. The club provided psychological support, media training, and a strict schedule to ensure his health, mentally and physically. "I just want to play," he would repeat. And play he did. Big nights in Europe. Yamal's talent wasn't limited to domestic football. In October 2023, he made his Champions League debut, becoming the youngest player to ever feature for Barcelona in the competition. Against Shakhtar Donetsk, he didn't just participate, he dazzled, twisting defenders, delivering crosses, and nearly scoring a stunner from distance. The football world buzzed. This kid's already elite. His performances earned praise from legends like Thierry Henry, Rio Ferdinand, and even Lionel Messi himself, who reportedly sent a private message: "Enjoy the game, stay humble, keep working." International fame begins. Around this time, Spain came calling. Though eligible for Morocco and Equatorial Guinea, Lamine chose to represent Spain, the country of his birth and football roots. In September 2023, he made his debut for the Spanish senior national team and once again made history as their youngest ever player and goal scorer. Against Georgia in a UFO Euro qualifier, Yamal scored a beautiful goal. Clean finish, edge of the box after weaving through defenders. Spain won 7-1, but the headlines? Yamal, the future of La Roja.
The legacy starts now. Within just 1 year of stepping into senior football, Lamine Yamal had debuted in La Liga and Champions League, become the youngest goal scorer for both Barcelona and Spain, delivered multiple assists and clutch plays, and captured the imagination of fans across the globe. He wasn't just a promise anymore. He was performing at the highest level, week after week. And the best part? He was only 16 years old. The humble star. Despite fame, Yamal remained modest. He still lived with his parents, still played video games with childhood friends. He often visited La Masia, talking to younger players, reminding them, "I was just like you. Keep working, stay humble." He trained harder than ever, working on his right foot, defensive positioning, and strength. He wanted to be more than just a dribbler. He wanted to be complete. International career. Wearing the colors of Spain. The choice of a nation. As Lamine Yamal began rising through the ranks at FC Barcelona, international football loomed like a question waiting to be answered. Born in Spain, but with a Moroccan father and an Ecuadorian mother, Yamal was eligible to represent 3 countries. Each nation hoped he'd choose them. Morocco's fans called him the next Hakimi. Equatorian Guinea hailed him as their greatest ever. But Spain had something else. Home. Having grown up in Catalonia, trained at La Masia, and been a part of Spain's youth national teams since U15, Yamal felt a deep connection to the Spanish crest. "Spain is where I was born, where I grew up. It's part of me," he said when asked about his decision. He had represented Spain at youth levels, U15, U16, U17, and now, at just 16 years old, he was knocking on the door of the senior national team. The historic call-up. The call came in September 2023. Luis de la Fuente, Spain's senior national coach, named Lamine Yamal in the squad for the UEFA Euro 2024 qualifiers. Critics called it premature. Some were cautious. But fans? They were thrilled. He was young, fearless, and already dazzling in La Liga. Spain was set to face Georgia and Cyprus, and the whole country tuned in to see if this teenager could live up to the growing legend. He did more than that. Debut versus Georgia, and new era begins. September 8th, 2023.
Spain versus Georgia. Lamine came off the bench in the 44th minute, replacing Dani Olmo. Spain was already leading 4-1, but what happened next lit a fire across Europe. In the 74th minute, Yamal received the ball on the right wing. With his signature calmness, he cut inside, shifted the ball to his left foot, and smashed it low into the corner of the net. Goal. Pure joy. He became the youngest goal scorer in Spain's history and the youngest ever to play for the national team. Both records shattered in one magical night. Spain won 7-1, but the moment belonged to Lamine Yamal. "He was born for this stage," said Alvaro Morata after the game. "The spotlight shines bright." With that one game, Yamal became a national sensation. Every TV channel covered him. Spanish media began calling him El Futuro de la Roja, the future of the Red Fury. He handled it all with maturity far beyond his age. Interviews were short and humble. His message was consistent. "I want to help the team. I want to improve." Luis de la Fuente praised him publicly, saying, "He brings freshness, unpredictability, and calmness under pressure. He has that rare quality." The Euro 2024 qualifiers, rising to the occasion. Yamal continued his form during the qualifiers. Versus Cyprus, registered an assist and nearly scored twice. Versus Scotland, drew fouls, stretched the defense, and showed confidence against world-class defenders. Versus Norway, created 2 chances and proved effective even in tight tactical games. Though not always starting, his impact off the bench was electric. He became Spain's game changer, someone who could tilt momentum and bring fear to tired defenses. The challenge of national pressure. With fame came expectations. Critics warned that Spain shouldn't overuse him too early. Comparisons to Messi, Fati, and Pedri flooded in. Everyone had an opinion. But the Spanish Football Federation managed things carefully. They ensured Yamal wasn't overburdened. They assigned him a personal mentor, helped manage his media obligations, and coordinated with Barcelona to protect his development. Meanwhile, back in Morocco, fans were heartbroken that he chose Spain. But Yamal remained respectful. "I'm proud of my roots. I respect Morocco and Equatorial Guinea, but my football heart beats with Spain." Euro 2024 on the horizon. With the UEFA Euro 2024 tournament approaching, Yamal was named in the final 23-man squad for Spain, a decision that stirred both excitement and caution. Spain was in a transitional phase, moving from the tiki-taka era toward a more aggressive, high-intensity style. Yamal fit perfectly. He wasn't expected to start every game, but he was the X factor. Pundits said he might not be the star yet, but he will decide moments, on and off the field. Away from the pitch, Yamal's profile soared. He appeared in ads, gave occasional interviews, and participated in campaigns for youth education, especially for minority kids in football. He visited schools, donated boots to local academies, and stayed connected to the neighborhoods where he once played barefoot. In every way, he remained grounded. A nation's future. By the time the Euro tournament began, Lamine Yamal was no longer just a promising teenager. He was one of Spain's key attacking weapons. He had speed, he had vision, he had creativity, but most of all, he had the belief of a nation. Whether Spain won the tournament or not didn't matter. What mattered was that the future had arrived, and his name was Lamine Yamal. Challenges and triumphs, fighting through the pressure. The reality of fame. Lamine Yamal had become a household name. In less than 2 years, he had broken age records at both Barcelona and Spain, starred in domestic and international matches, and become the symbol of a new generation. But with meteoric rise comes intense pressure, and Yamal was about to learn that success is only half the battle. By the time he was 17, his face was on billboards, his goals played on repeat across social media, and his name chanted in stadiums. But while millions celebrated him, expectations grew unbearably high. Can he be the next Messi? Will he carry Barcelona and Spain for the next decade? What if he fails? These questions weren't just asked, they were demanded, and Yamal, still a teenager, had to find a way to carry the weight. The physical toll. The 2024-2025 season began with intensity. Barcelona, under pressure to return to Champions League glory, relied heavily on Yamal's creativity. Week after week, he featured in starting 11s, often playing full 90-minute matches. By midseason, signs of fatigue began to show. In a match against Sevilla, Yamal pulled up after a sprint, his hand on his hamstring. He limped off, and fans held their breath. The diagnosis? A minor muscle strain, out for 4 weeks. While not career-threatening, it was Yamal's first real physical setback in senior football. He used the time to recover slowly, avoid re-injury, and study match film. He later said, "This injury taught me that my body is my engine. I must protect it." He returned stronger, but Barcelona now rotated him more cautiously, using him strategically instead of constantly. Criticism and online pressure. As with every superstar, the praise Yamal received had a dark side: criticism, jealousy, and trolling. When he went 3 games without a goal, critics on social media began to question his form. Journalists asked if he was losing his touch. One paper even called him Barcelona's overhyped boy. Yamal tried to ignore the noise, but he admitted later, "It hurt. I was 16. I read everything. I believed some of it." His coach, Xavi, sat him down and told him, "Ignore the noise. Be your own mirror. The only truth is in the work." With that advice, Yamal deleted his Twitter, limited his Instagram activity, and focused on training. His performances returned to top level, not because he chased approval, but because he returned to joy. Learning to lead. Despite his youth, Yamal was increasingly looked to as a creative leader. In tense games where veterans faltered, it was often his quick feet or clever pass that unlocked defenses. His assist tally skyrocketed, and even though he didn't always score, he was always involved. Against Atletico Madrid, he assisted both goals in a 2-1 win. Against Real Sociedad, he earned a standing ovation after a solo dribble that nearly led to the goal of the season. Xavi once said, "He doesn't shout, he doesn't complain, he leads with action." More than once, older players went to him for advice. It was surreal, but Yamal never let it go to his head. A team in transition. Barcelona was going through a tough period. Financial pressure loomed, player wages were cut, and the team lacked the depth of earlier dynasties. Amid this chaos, Yamal became a beacon of stability. Fans viewed him as hope, proof that La Masia still worked, that the future was still bright. But it was a heavy burden for a teenager. In a press conference after a draw against Cadiz, he said, "I can't do it alone. We need time. We need patience." His words struck a chord. They weren't excuses, they were leadership. European nights and near misses. Barcelona made it to the Champions League quarterfinals that season. In the knockout stages, Yamal scored a stunning goal against Inter Milan, a curling left-foot strike from outside the box. It was replayed around the world. But in the semis, they fell short to Bayern Munich. Despite Yamal's brilliant assist in the first leg, Barcelona lost 4-2 on aggregate. After the match, Yamal sat on the grass long after the final whistle, disappointed but composed. Reporters captured the moment, head down, arms resting on his knees, eyes distant. Fans didn't criticize. They stood and clapped. He had done everything.
Finding balance. Off the field, Yamal began working with a sports psychologist. He spoke publicly about mental health in football. We talk about goals and assists, but we don't talk about pressure or fear or loneliness. I want to speak up. He also began reading books, studying languages, and spending more time with his family. He found joy in simple things, playing basketball with his cousin, walking his dog, or making playlists of old-school hip-hop. The turning point match. In April 2025, Barcelona faced Real Madrid in El Clásico at the Santiago Bernabéu. Yamal, once again, was the youngest on the pitch. Barcelona was down 1-0 at halftime. In the second half, Lamine Yamal turned the game on its head. First, he drew a penalty. Then, in the 88th minute, he received the ball from Gavi, danced past 2 defenders, and curled a winner into the top corner. 2-1, victory. He ran to the corner flag, eyes wide, hands spread like wings. The commentator shouted, "El niño lo ha hecho! The kid has done it!" A symbol of resilience. By season end, Yamal had proven he wasn't just a flash in the pan, he was a player who could take knocks, survive slumps, and still deliver magic. He finished the season with 12 goals, 18 assists, and countless memories. But more importantly, he had matured. He had faced pressure, injury, criticism, and had come out stronger. Style of play and influence. The left-footed symphony. The art of the game. There are players who run fast, those who shoot hard, and those who defend with grit. And then there are players like Lamine Yamal, artists on the pitch, weaving beauty with every touch. His football wasn't just effective, it was elegant, thoughtful, and musical. To watch Yamal play was like listening to a symphony, quiet in the build-up, explosive in the chorus, and smooth in transitions. He brought grace to the game, painting the field with movement. Signature qualities. Let's break down the traits that made him unique. 1. Left foot like a wand. Yamal's left foot wasn't just dominant, it was mesmerizing. He used it to shoot, pass, dribble, and even feint. His curling shots from the right wing became iconic, especially the ones that bent into the top far corner, a la Robin or Messi. Defenders knew it was coming, they just couldn't stop it. Balance and agility. Standing at 1.78 meters, 5'10", with a lean, wiry frame, Yamal was agile like a cat. He could pivot on either foot, drop his shoulder, and glide through crowded spaces. He often got past two defenders using only body feints. No tricks, no flash, just pure instinct. Vision and timing. One of his greatest weapons was his game intelligence. He saw runs before they happened, anticipated where teammates would be, and knew when to release the ball. Many of his assists came from simple passes at the perfect moment. "He plays like someone who's already lived this match in a dream," said a Spanish journalist. Calm under pressure. Whether it was the Camp Nou, Wembley, or Santiago Bernabeu, Yamal always looked calm, like he was playing with friends at the park. Even when pressed by two defenders, he rarely rushed. Instead, he would turn, shield the ball, or draw foul. Pressure didn't shake him, it sharpened him. Position and role. Yamal's primary position was right winger, where he could cut in with his left foot and either shoot or play through balls. But over time, he evolved. As a false nine, he dropped deep and drew defenders out of shape. On the left wing, he provided driven low crosses or linked with overlapping fullbacks. Occasionally, he played as an attacking midfielder, using his awareness to create chaos in the final third. He wasn't a position player. He was a solution wherever he was placed. The Messi comparisons. From the beginning, Lamine Yamal was compared to Lionel Messi. Same club, same academy, same dominant left foot. But Yamal handled the comparisons with maturity. He admired Messi, but never tried to copy him. In fact, he once said, "There will never be another Messi. I want to be the first Lamine." Yet the similarities were clear. Both had low centers of gravity. Both preferred drifting in from the right. Both made magic in tight spaces. Even former players like Iniesta and Xavi noted the resemblance. But where Messi was explosively instinctive, Yamal was composed and surgical. He didn't just react, he calculated. Influences beyond Messi. Yamal wasn't just a Messi student. He studied Andres Iniesta for composure and control, Riyad Mahrez for dribbling and unpredictability, David Silva for vision and subtle movement, Arjen Robben for his cut-ins and body control.
He was a mix of old-school patience and modern explosiveness, a hybrid of flair and discipline. How he changed Barcelona's attack? Before Yamal, Barcelona had struggled with width. Teams would sit deep and the midfield lacked verticality, but Yamal stretched the game. He held width on the right, dragging defenders. He cut inside, opening space for overlapping fullbacks. He forced teams to double mark, freeing up others. Suddenly, Barcelona became less predictable, more dynamic, and more dangerous. Yamal's presence gave Barcelona a new identity, a blend of tradition and innovation. Respect from peers. By 18, top defenders in La Liga and Europe were praising him. Quote, "He's got ice in his veins," said Antonio Rudiger. Unquote. Quote, "He's like facing a mirror. He sees everything." Unquote, said João Cancelo. Unquote, "He's a chess player in a sprinting match," said Aymeric Laporte. Even young talents like Jude Bellingham and Pedri called him the most complete winger of their generation. The Yamal dribble. Every great attacker has their signature. Yamal's was a dribble that fans called the shadow slip. It was simple. 1. Slow down. 2. Feint with the body. 3. Sudden drop of the shoulder. 4. Acceleration in a diagonal burst. He used it repeatedly, and it worked, because it was never exactly the same. The angle shifted. The tempo varied. It was unreadable, yet predictable, a paradox that kept fans on their feet. Legacy and style. Even at a young age, coaches at La Masia began teaching his highlights to younger wingers. Quote, "He's not just a player, he's a teaching tool," one youth coach said. Unquote. They called him the left-footed symphony, a player who didn't just win games, but made people fall in love with football again. Personal life and character, the soul behind the star. Beyond the pitch. To the world, Lamine Yamal was a sensation, a highlight reel, a record breaker. But away from the chants, flashing lights, and camera lenses, he was something much simpler, a humble boy with strong roots, a quiet soul, and a mature heart. While other young stars chased the nightlife or brand deals, Yamal chased peace, in family, in friends, and in football. Quote, "Fame is noise, family is silence. I need both to balance." Unquote. The family foundation. Yamal was raised in a tight-knit, multicultural household. His father, of Moroccan heritage, was firm but encouraging. His mother, from Equatorial Guinea, was gentle but unyielding in discipline. They both shaped his identity with love and structure. His parents had come from modest beginnings, working multiple jobs, navigating immigration systems, and sacrificing comforts for their children's future. Even after Yamal became rich and famous, he stayed in their small apartment in Mataro longer than expected. Quote, "This is where I'm grounded," he said in an interview. "Fame doesn't change your bedroom or your mother's cooking." Unquote. He never forgot the struggles of his youth. Every training session, he said, was for his family, to honor everything they had endured. Relationships with friends and teammates. Yamal's circle was small. He had a few childhood friends he played video games with, mostly FIFA, NBA 2K, and Call of Duty. They often teased him when his virtual version got low ratings. On the pitch, he bonded closely with Pedri, Gavi, and Alejandro Balde, players close in age who shared the pressure of early stardom. But he also built respect with veterans like Lewandowski and Ter Stegen, who admired his work ethic. Quote, "He listens more than he talks. That's rare," unquote, said Lewandowski. During downtime, Yamal preferred chess, watching old football documentaries, or walking along the Barcelona beachfront with his headphones in. He didn't like parties, he rarely drank, he avoided controversy. Mentorship and role models. While many stars carved their path alone, Yamal welcomed mentorship. He stayed close with Xavi, who shaped his game with tactical wisdom, Iniesta, who reached out with advice on humility and longevity, and Messi, who, despite rarely speaking publicly, shared quiet encouragement in private texts. Yamal also gave back. He frequently returned to La Masia to speak to younger players. He donated boots. He sat with 12-year-olds and said things like, "Don't play for Instagram, play for your soul." Faith and focus. Yamal practiced Islam, quietly but faithfully. He prayed regularly, observed Ramadan when he could, and thanked God after every match. When asked what kept him balanced, he once answered, "My religion, my parents, and the ball." He never wore his beliefs loudly, but he lived by them. His values showed in his patience, his kindness, and his refusal to look down on others. Style off the pitch. Yamal didn't chase designer brands. He dressed simply. Tracksuits, Air Jordans, Barcelona hoodies. His most extravagant purchase? A custom PlayStation 5 for his younger brother. He signed endorsement deals, but only with brands that aligned with his image, respectful, youthful, and inspiring. One of his first major campaigns was for a children's charity, donating footballs and gear to underprivileged schools. He became an icon not because he demanded attention, but because he quietly earned admiration. Handling fame. Even as magazines labeled him Europe's most marketable teen, Yamal refused to let it sink into his head. He used a private Instagram account for his friends. He once turned down a major TV appearance because it clashed with a school visit he had promised to make months earlier. He had a small tattoo on his wrist, written in Arabic, that read, "Gratitude is wealth." The emotional side. Few knew that Yamal cried during films, or that he once wrote a poem about football, or that he kept a childhood drawing of himself in a Barcelona jersey in his locker. When Barcelona lost a Champions League semifinal, Yamal wept in private, not because of the defeat, but because he felt he had let people down. Quote, "He feels deeply," a teammate said. "He doesn't show it all the time, but when he loves something, he gives it everything." Relationships and rumors. As he entered his late teens, tabloids began speculating about his romantic life. But Yamal stayed out of gossip columns. He had a girlfriend, but they kept things private. She was not from the celebrity world. They met during school, long before his fame. He often said, "Privacy is the last place I can be normal. I protect it like gold." Role in society. Beyond football, Yamal became a symbol for multicultural Spain, a child of African and Arab descent wearing the Spanish badge, speaking fluent Catalan, Spanish, and French. He became the face of inclusive excellence, showing that identity is not singular and that talent knows no boundaries. He stood for something larger than goals and trophies. He stood for possibility. Looking to the future, the road ahead. Standing at the crossroads of destiny. By the time he turned 18, Lamine Yamal had already lived a football life that many dreamed of and few achieved. But for him, this wasn't the finish line. It was just the beginning. He had goals, not just of personal glory, but of legacy, of meaning, and of elevating others. "I don't just want to play. I want to leave something behind." And with those words, Yamal began to shape the next phase of his journey, not as a child prodigy, but as a professional man with purpose. Goals and ambitions. Yamal wasn't driven by Ballon d'Or dreams alone, though he admitted he'd love one. He wanted to win the UEFA Champions League with Barcelona, lift a major trophy with Spain, be it the Euro or World Cup, become captain for both club and country, and inspire kids, especially those from immigrant families who feel overlooked or doubted. He once said, quote, "I want to show them it's possible. You don't have to change who you are. You just have to believe in who you are." Barcelona, a team reborn around him. The club had begun rebuilding around its young stars, Yamal, Pedri, Gavi, Balde, and a new generation of La Masia graduates. By 2026, Yamal had become one of the team's leaders, often wearing the armband during Copa del Rey matches. He had evolved his game, becoming stronger, tactically richer, and more vocal on the field. He wasn't just a spark, he was the engine. Barcelona's attack now revolved around him. Quick give-and-go triangles, late runs into the box, diagonal dribbles, and most notably, that left-footed finesse that still curled balls into the far corner with surgical grace. He wasn't just playing for results, he was playing for beauty. Spain's great hope. In the Spanish national team, Yamal had become the heartbeat of La Roja. Alongside established midfielders and rising stars, Yamal led Spain to the Euro 2018 final. Though they narrowly lost to France in a dramatic penalty shootout, Yamal was named player of the tournament with 3 goals and 5 assists. "He's not just part of our future," the Spanish coach said. "He is the face of it." He was already being spoken of in the same breath as Iniesta, Xavi, and Villa, not because he imitated them, but because he matched their impact in his own way. Maturity and mentorship. As he matured, Lamine began mentoring younger players at Barcelona and Spain. He took 15-year-olds under his wing, just as others once did for him. He launched the Yamal Foundation, focused on providing sports gear for underfunded youth clubs, offering free football clinics in Africa and Spain, and supporting education programs for children in poor communities. He was more than a player now. He was a symbol. The world watched. By now, the world had accepted him as one of the game's leading figures. He had endorsement deals with Nike, EA Sports, and UNICEF. His jersey was among the top 5 sold worldwide, especially popular in Spain, Morocco, and France. But Yamal stayed grounded. He still spoke softly, still carried his prayer beads on away trips, still texted his parents before every match. He said, "I don't chase being a legend. I chase being better than I was yesterday." What came next? The future held many questions. Would he win the Ballon d'Or? Would he break La Liga records? Would he stay at Barcelona forever, or explore clubs abroad? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Lamine Yamal's journey was far from over. He was just getting started.